Greetings, and thanks for joining me on the very first episode From Fear to Freedom. This is all just kind of just a documentary for me to be able to express these experiences that I've been having and just like the spiritual journey I'm going on, and also to cry out to humanity and ask, everyone out there, like, what are we doing? Where are we going? What is the trajectory of humanity right now? Like, individually, as a whole, like, what are we doing here? So, leading up to all this, I think a lot of this is just to bring hope and courage to people that may have lost their way. I certainly was one of those people. I've been raised in the church all my life, ran away from it in my teen years. I was raised without a dad, single mom, so I was smothered with religion and a mother's love. Thank God, made me who I am today. But during teen years, it was not so obvious to have that perspective. And I ran from all that and looked for that in drugs and all sorts of other things, and sex and things of the flesh, for lack of a better way of putting it. Wound up having kids really young, and with a woman that let me put it this way. Super important who you choose to have kids with, because it affects your kids. And, neither one of us were ready for kids. I was 20, she was 18, and, but life happens, such as life. So anyway, super toxic relationship, met doing, using drugs and alcohol and partying and all that stuff. Had kids, through growing up without kids or without a dad. It was super important for me to be a dad and try to make it work, and so I wound up tolerating a lot more than I probably should have, and setting myself in ways that wound up being super unhealthy and was very toxic, not just for myself and for their mom, but especially for my children, who are still paying that price. I think that's something it says in the Bible, the children will pay for the sins of their fathers. And boy, that's a really harsh truth for me right now. So anyway, to the whole point of this, right? Like, throughout my life, like, never thought I would experience these things. Anyway, so super toxic relationship. We had my first daughter, or my firstborn, my daughter. She's now 18, getting ready to have a child of her own. I'm gonna have a granddaughter, which is amazing and scary at the same time. And then 3 years later, my son came around. And anyway, long story short, it didn't work out. Through a crazy series of events, like my mom wound up moving back east. I live in Northern California. My mom moved back east and was doing stuff back there. And I got an opportunity to go out there, and I'd finally come to the realization that, this relationship was toxic and I needed to change, and I'm like, been in and out of like seeking God throughout my life. Sometimes I'm like focused, and then kind of when I feel I got it and things are good, then I'm like, all right, God, I got this. Like, I don't need, I got it from here. I'll do me now. I'm in control, which is a crazy illusion in and of itself. But anyway, so I'm like trying to get out of here because it's just bad, and kids' mom is in and out of their lives. It was like worse for them to be here, I think, than anything. So went out there, and through some crazy, just radical synchronicities that are just so undeniable. It was like, okay, the universe or God or whatever, like something's happening here. Like something's pulling me to this. This is some next level stuff here, So I made the decision to go out there and do that thing, and was super amazing. Met some of the most amazing people, and got to work with some of the most amazing people in my life. Um, it was super awesome. I missed it. Like, I missed it so much. But anyway, through all that, and I'd been battling addiction and all that stuff throughout this whole time, smoking weed and drinking and stuff like that. And through that whole time, like, I had quit some things, but, I hadn't quit smoking weed, and the people I was now working for were, Christian people and stuff like that. So there was this fear, man. Like, I didn't want them to know I smoke weed, but most of the people that wound up working with me, were younger, and it's kind of the thing, I don't smoke weed, like, connect with all sorts of people, but anyway, so that was an underlying thing. And when working with these people, I was going through this book, Developing the Leader Within You by John Maxwell. And I do believe it's chapter 3, talking about integrity, where is what I do and who I am lined up with, am I going to do the same thing when no one's looking? Am I going to have that integrity? And that really hit home for me. Like, I really was struggling with that because of not being honest with my boss and letting him know, yeah, man, I smoke weed, which probably would have been okay if I was just like, hey, man, like, this is just where I'm at. Like, they could have worked with me, I'm sure. But that didn't happen, unfortunately. And through just like that divided spirit, like, I'm not having that integrity, not doing that right thing, like, not being honest, right? I started getting back into drinking. And alcohol and I do not mix very well. I am not a nice drunk. Long story short, through getting caught up with myself, I wound up embezzling a lot of money, like a little over 15 grand from these people. And, it didn't all get figured out right away, but, you can't hide from the truth. I don't give a fuck who you are. It doesn't work that way. The truth will always come out, and the truth will set you free, which will come out later in this story. Like, we'll get to that, because there's also some freedom in this stuff. But anyway, so lose that job. And because, like, they didn't know, but they knew, you know what I mean? It's like they couldn't prove it, but it was like, there's not really, through process of elimination, it's like, there's not really anyone else it could be, So obviously they had to, like, set some healthy boundaries, right? They're actually really amazing people. They didn't, like, press charges or anything. Like, they kept their love on towards me, but they set healthy boundaries, as they should, because I can't be running their business if I'm taking money from their business, right? Like, duh. Oh, God, I still kick myself in the ass for that sometimes. Which is really the whole topic of this, right? Like, learning how to forgive yourself. Like, that's been, like, a super big struggle that I had, and really the forgiveness that I had through this whole experience. So, but anyway, so I lose that job, and I wind up moving back here, and I had been back here maybe 6 months and got back into, like, growing weed. It's Northern California. It's like the thing to do, Knew a lot of people in the biz. I was, like, helping managing a garden, all that good stuff, multiple gardens. But, like, just, like, I was so fucked up from, like, betraying these people, and I just had so much guilt. And that guilt was really starting to turn into shame, like, especially from other, like, poor choices I'd made many times throughout my life. Like, I was really identifying, right? Like, guilt is when you feel bad about the things that you've done, right? Making poor choices. Shame is when you are identifying with, like, oh, I am bad. Not like what I did was bad. I must be bad because I keep doing that. And that's what I was doing. I was, like, identifying with, like, I'm just a constant piece of shit. I'm a constant fuck up, and I'm just going to keep fucking up and doing this shit. And I'm gonna, it would be better off for the people that I love and for my family. I should just fucking die, And I was really believing this. It was the darkest place I ever went to in my life. And so drinking to cover all that up. Well, in the process of all of that, then I was back here maybe 6 months, and my kids' grandma wound up turning me in. Because through that alcoholism, I had overspanked my kids and left a bruise on one of their butts. And like, so between that and growing, and I also had firearms on a grow, even though it's like they were legitimate and I could have them. Like, you can't do that in California for whatever weird reason. I don't understand. Can't protect your shit. But anyway, lost my kids, who were my life, right? Like, I'd had full custody of my kids for some time, and really just lost myself. Like, I never thought in a million years I'd ever be in this position, you know, or that I'd ever like fall to these lows, you know what I mean? Like, I'd never be that guy, you know, I'd never be, like, no fucking way, you know. Well, the universe has a funny old way of doing things and teaching you things, you know. Gotta be careful what you pray for. But so anyway, so I lose my kids. That was in 2017, September 14th, 2017. And for the next, so for the next 5 years, so I started at first like fighting it, right? Fighting the case, fighting all these things, and wanted taking a deal because like things got pretty exaggerated and like blown way out of proportion. And so I was fighting it all, but they were going to put my kids on the stand. I want them taking a deal. They're like, 12 weeks of doing these parenting classes, you could be back in their life, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, I can't deal with this anymore. I need to be back in my kids' life. Like, this is fucking me up. It's fucking my kids' up. And so I do that. Well, 49 classes later, even though I was supposed to get visitation after 12 weeks, 49 classes later, I still was not allowed visitation. I was denied like 6 different times. There's like this weird, so I was in this weird loophole, right? Like, the CPS worker that came out on the case happened to also be like gone to high school with my kids' grandma on their mom's side. And so because of that, she wound up not opening up a CPS case, because if that happened, kids would have to be removed from that home, put into foster care. Then grandma would have to then go fight for the kids. The kids get allowed to go to there. So all sorts of other trauma that would come in that, right? Well, because there's no case open, then there's no CPS worker as a liaison between the courts and grandma and mom's side. And so anytime I requested, like, courts just send someone to go talk to grandma, not the CPS worker that's like diving into the case, really checking out dynamics, figuring out what's really going on here. And grandma was pulling some power plays there. So 49 classes later, and I just gone through this class that was teaching me that when you sever the bonds and attachments between parent and child, and you do that over time, this will literally slow down their brain development, their ability to have social skills and develop long-lasting relationships. And I'm like watching this unfold in my kids, right? And they deny me again, and I'm like, what the fuck, man? Like, y'all are teaching me how fucked up my kids are going to be from this, and I'm watching this happen, and you guys are still denying me this shit, right? And that was still the ruling. They're like, well, sorry, Miss Sobrisky, we believe it's in the best interest and like healthier for the kids to like not have you around. And I fucking lost my shit, dude. Talk about like alcohol and drugs, man. I wanted to numb out so bad. I felt so fucking horrible and just like so lost, and, you know, didn't really have faith in humanity at that point in time, and just kind of blaming everybody too. You know, it's just like, you know, everybody else's fault. The fucking world's against me. Why is this shit happening? You know, just pissed, you know, and not understanding. And that's really what got me. That's when I really started identifying with like what I was saying earlier. Of like, I'm just this constant fuck up, you know. Like, my kids would be better off if I just kill myself, you know. Because then, you know, then they at least don't got to deal with the pain of me fucking shit up again, you know. That's a really hard thing to go through as a parent. So anyway, so through all this, like it, you know, I was on the run for a while, like, so I was on probation for some time, for maybe a year. And then I went on the run for a couple years and hit drugs and alcohol hard. smoking meth every day, drinking alcohol every day, weed, cigarettes, plus coke, ketamine. If it's around, I'm doing it. Other than heroin. I haven't fucked with heroin in like, oh God, a long time now, but never went back to that. That's a bad sickness. Ugh. Yeah, you ever experienced the sickness, you know what I mean. And oh God, it's all bad. Anyway, so I'm just like lost in drugs and alcohol, right? And not knowing who I am, where I'm going, how the fuck did I even get here? Like, who am I becoming? Like, I hated myself. I hated who I was. I hated who I was becoming. I didn't really see any hope in moving forward, right? And then also, in the end of all this, so it's like 2022, I finally, I had a core group of people that wound up allowing me to be there, despite me being on the run. They were kind of like loving me, until I could love myself. Put up with my shit, and gave me love anyway. Lord knows I did not deserve it. I was a turd many times, but they still love me through it. But anyway, so at the end, I think it's 2001, December, or 2021, I wound up getting shit drunk, blackout drunk, went from the mountains up here in Northern California down into a little town that I grew up in called Oroville, and don't remember getting there. Had a stolen pistol, or I bought a stolen pistol that I was going to kill myself with, and wound up running into a pole, right? And I freak out. Like, I come to after crashing into this pole, not knowing that, I don't even remember leaving my buddy's place, 30-minute drive away, And I'm like, fuck, and I'm in my truck, and so I'm grabbing all my stuff, don't realize that there's pistol down there, don't realize that there's ammo down there, and I'm already a convicted felon, so felon in possession of ammunition, felon in possession of firearm. At the time, I still thought that felon in possession of a firearm, that's 10-year enhancement. That means whatever charge you get for that you also get 10 years because you're a felon in possession of a firearm. Well, then also felon in possession of ammunition. Well, there was stuff at the time where it's like, for every bullet you have, another 5-year enhancement. Well, I had 15 rounds. So I thought I was looking at a lot of time. Plus, I've already been on the run and from probation. And Butte County is pretty notorious. They do not give a fuck. They will throw you in prison. And I think, the judicial system in itself has kind of been industrialized. And, it's not just anymore. It's been used to, make money off of people. I think that's fucked up. We got to change that shit, too. But we're not getting to that point yet. So anyway, so through all this, I run, I dip, I ran to a friend of mine's that was down the street. Luckily, he was home. He let me in, and so I'm still on the run, right? Well, through all this, it's like another year after that, and it's New Year's, 2022 going into 2023. And boy, I had the gnarliest acid trip of my life. I went on a 12-day acid trip. From 2 hits, just 2 hits, gnarly. Done lots of psychedelics in my life. Never had no trip like this. And the first day was your normal trip, but then for the next 11 days, there's no visual, but God or the universe, whatever, the cosmic consciousness was speaking to me through everything, undeniably through everything. And I'm like, what the fuck, right? I'm fucking losing my shit, dude. I'm fucking perma-fried, shit happens, you know what I mean? I'm freaking out, but this is but it's the most beautiful thing. I just see God in everything, and this connection that I have with everything it was so profound, under any other trip that I've ever had in my life. And I've done a lot of psychedelics. Acid, mushrooms, all those other, which I'm not trying to glorify any of that shit. You don't need to do that shit to find God. Although sometimes it speeds up the process. I have to admit that. And it can be beneficial, I think. I've had some beneficial experiences from LSD. I've had some beneficial experiences from psilocybin. But but nothing compared to the experience that I had with God, which we're still leading up to. And I've had multiple in my life leading up to that, but like, things go on and you kind of just like, I rationalize, right? I'm like, oh, that wasn't God. That was like, oh, this, and this happened, and that's why this happened. That wasn't really God. You know what I mean? Well, after all this, like, I'm at my wit's end, right? And I'm like, on the run. I'm like, all this stuff starts happening to my kids. And I'm like, fuck, what am I gonna do? And it's like, their mother and their mom's side of the family aren't, in my opinion, the best equipped for teaching children or providing nurturing growth or that type of environment. God bless their grandma. I know she's done the best with what she had. But anyway, lots of trauma was happening to my kids. And I was just like fucking lost. So lost. And I just hated myself. I hated who I was. And I wanted to die. And so on that night, that first night, like when I was having those acid trips, like later on that night, I'm like, I'm crying out to God or whatever's out there, right? Like I'd also been doing stuff with Dr. Greer, Dr. Stephen Greer. He talks about CE5s, the guy that does like Unacknowledged, the Disclosure Project, all that stuff with like aliens and stuff like that. So, and this is going to get trippy. Stay with me. It's good. But, or I'm just really batshit crazy, but it's good. And God is amazing. Absolutely amazing. The stuff he's done in my life through this. And, I know I dropped the G word a lot, and I know a lot of people have been burned by the church. So I think God is love, or that cosmic consciousness, like what was, what is, and will be, like this constantly moving from form through form, in form, out of form, cosmic consciousness. All is in the all, and the all is in all, like that type of, like, that's God, right? God is love. Bible says God is the one who does not know love, does not know God, because God is love. So love does wind up making some radical changes. So anyway, so I'm tripping. I'm like, I'm crying out. I'm like, God, or anything in good intention, anything out there, like, please help me. Like, and I'm just like weeping uncontrollably because of like, just feeling like shit for choices I made and like things that I was doing. And just like, I did not like myself. And I'm just like crying out, please help me, please. And this light being shows up in my room, right? Now, again, I know you're saying like, you done too many drugs, Chriso. I know. But this is unlike anything I've ever, like, I'm never, not to say it could, like, maybe it is, I don't know, but, like, actually, I do know, we'll get into that. So, this light being shows up, and I'm freaking the fuck out. I'm like, oh my God, fried my brain, too much meth, too much alcohol, serious damage is done, I'm losing my shit, right? And I'm just weeping uncontrollably, right? And like this being is like just communicating to me like telepathically, right? And putting all these images and thoughts and stuff in my mind. And I'm like, and I'm freaking out. I'm like, what in the fuck are you? Right? And I'm like, especially after doing C5, I'm like, did I just connect with a celestial being here or a alien, right? Or is this God? Like, is this an angel? What is this? It's, I think, angel, the watchers, whatever, I don't know. Definitely a messenger. And so, like, I'm freaking out. I'm like, what the fuck are you? And like, again, it's like, there was no verbal communication. It's just like a human shape, but all white, like just bright white light. Like I couldn't see any facial features, any definitions, just bright white light, but in the shape of a being. And it told me that it's truth and love. And that had purpose for my life. and not to be afraid, but that I was consumed with fear and lies. Fear that I was believing about myself, and fear of like what was to come, or and who I was becoming, and lies that I was believing about myself, and lies that I was telling to try to like, avoid, these truths in my life. And amongst many other things, it also was showing me that like as above, so below, as within, so without. And that we really got to change what we're doing on this planet. We need to start honoring all life, that we have walked away from the original instructions. And I really understand all that. But the main thing about this is like walk in truth and love. I'm like, what do I do? With like my situation being on the run, I'm thinking I'm looking at like 25 to life. Like, because I already had like 16 years, 8 months hanging over my head from the original stuff I was on probation for. And now I have this other case I'm on the run from for DUI, hit and run, felon in possession of ammunition, felon in possession of firearms. So I'm like, I'm believing I'm fucked, right? And it tells me to walk in truth and love and turn myself in, and it's going to work miracles, right? And so, I don't even remember, like, I can't put in specifics. It's been a little while. It's 2025 now. A lot more radical shit's happened. And I'm finally acting on this stuff to get it out there. However this is supposed to manifest, I don't know. I feel in my spirit the time is now to act on this and really be sharing this. I don't know how to share this other than like, I just want all the glory to go to God here. Like, this is all about love. Like, that's where I'm going in all this. This is what changed my life. So let God take all the glory on this. So anyway, so I struggle with this, I'm like, okay, the experience finally goes away, like 11 days later after like, so I call this like, I was having like what I call a download, right? So for like 11 days, just like, it's like I pulled the resistors out of my transmitter and like shit was flowing both ways, man. And just floods of this stuff. Like, and I can't even articulate it. Like, if anyone else out there has had experiences like this, you know what I mean? You're not crazy either. The shit's real. Anyhow, so I wrestle with this because I'm like, if I'm wrong, I'm going to prison for a long time, and I'm kind of thinking like, well, shit, I can go to Mexico. I got people, we get new IDs and all that stuff. I go on the run, but if I try to do that and take my kids and go on the run, like, I'm just setting my kids up for another position where like they could get taken away. Like, that's not right. Like, that's not right. That's not the way, so I'm like, I can't do that. And so in that night, I surrender. I'm like, okay, God, like whatever this messenger was, whatever. I'm like, okay, like I'm done walking in fear. I'm done letting fear manipulate me and lies manipulate me. And it's so easy. Like, I think we all can relate to that, where it's like something comes up and you get afraid and like fear of success or fear of failure or whatever. And it manipulates you to where you don't act on it, and like plain and simple, thought plus action equals manifestation. Like it's a universal equation. If you act on it, it's going to manifest. But things happen in our lives where, we get doubt and things didn't happen as fast as we want to maybe, and we stop acting. We're like, oh, it's not happening, and so we stop acting on it. Oh, and all of a sudden, go figure, it stops manifesting. So anyway, so I'm freaking out over this, and I'm like, man, I'm crazy, like I'm fucking shot out on drugs, like fucking lost my, this is not really God talk to me. I just didn't have, or CE5, did I just have an experience with a fucking celestial being, which I've also had some crazy other experiences with UFOs in this Oroville area, Butte County. I've seen some lights in the sky, I've had some trippy experiences, which I'm not going to get into all that right now. But I do believe in celestial beings or star people. I don't think they're God. I think God is everything. Like, God's in everything. It created everything. Like, they're just another creation of God. So I want to specify that too. So anyway, so 4 months go on and I'm wrestling with this, right? And I have to be honest with all this. And I know it's going to look weird. Like, oh, you're on psychedelics when this shit was going down. Because like 4 months later, and I was like, I'd actually had some mushrooms that day. Not much, just like 2 grams, you know, which, I don't know, I've taken a ½ ounce before. So that was a shamanic trip. So 2 grams wasn't much, you know, but I'm feeling it. And I called my daughter. She wanted to be over at her mom's in Chico, and I swear to God, my daughter sounds spun out, right? And her mom is like using meth and shit, you know, and I'm like, fuck, she's getting my fucking daughter high, dude. Like, not fucking cool. And I'm freaking the fuck out. Like, you know, don't keep that shit around my babies, you know. Although my alcoholism and my drink and my weed smell like, I can't say, I'd be a hypocrite to say that I'm any fucking better. You know, like I've been a piece of shit and done some fucked up shit. And it's that guilt and that shame that I developed from that like, and all the pain and suffering that's got me to choose to start going a different way. But, so I'm talking with my daughter and I'm crying out to God. I'm like, fuck, right? I end the phone call. I'm like, fuck, God, what do I do? Right? What do I do? Like, just can't keep going, you know? I'm like, and I'm just like working. I'm a workaholic. I'm spun out and doing drugs just to try, like, avoid all this shit going on in my life, you know? And that same voice from that being just, boom, instantly pops in my mind. It says, walk in truth and love and turn yourself in. I will work miracles. And I'm thinking, you know, for the longest time, I'm like, oh, well, I got to get all my stuff in storage. And I got to do this. I got to do that. And it's like, you know, there's always some other shit we got to do. And I'm like, fuck it, I'm going. And didn't tell anybody, just walked out to the highway and hitchhiked down into town and turned myself in. And man, let me talk to you about peace that passes understanding. I have never thought I would be thrilled to be in jail or have such peace and joy. But man, just like, I was no longer running from my shit. I'm finally like addressing the stuff in my life. And I'm like, okay, at least like I'm on the way, you know, like, this is what I got to do. It's just what I got to do. And, super scared throughout all that. Like, didn't know what was going to happen, right? But at least I'm not running from it anymore, right? I'm at least at the beginning of trying to do the next right thing. And so I was in there for some time, you know, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm guilty. Like, I'm fucking guilty. Like, I got to deal with this shit. I got to move forward, like, whatever, you know? So at first they're like, well, so you've been on the run from this last case, like, and come to find out it was only 5 years, 8 months. Cause like the way my attorney had said it, it was like, for doing, God, I can't remember consecutive or concurrent, what it means. Like consecutive is like, if you get like multiple different charges and it's consecutive, that means like you do your time for this and then you have to do your time for the next charge. And then you have to do your time for the other charge, rather than it all being brought together and like all that time is happening at the same time. So with all the time happening at the same time, I'm looking at 5 years, 8 months for the stuff I was on the run for. And my time is maxed out. They're like, we have to send you to prison for this. Like, there's nothing we can do. I'm like, all right, whatever, you know. And then I had to do a probation review and see if I'm eligible for probation for these new charges. And they recommend midterm, another 5 years, 8 months. So I'm looking at 11 years, 6 months total. And at first they were talking about, so I'd gone to sentencing multiple times and there was all sorts of snafus. And I'm just like trusting God, right? I'm like, okay, God, like from this experience, like you sent this angel to me, or you sent this messenger to tell me these things, or I one-on-one with God, whatever, you know. So I'm just walking in truth and love, you know, and trusting that miracles are going to happen. And finally, they wind up being like, okay, so this is what we're going to do. The other one's lapsed out. We can't give you any time on that. So we're just going to give you 5 years, 8 months. Like our hands are tied. We have to do that. And I'm like, God, thank you. This is not the 25 to life that I was expecting. You know what I mean? Like, this is way better, especially like I I would be doing a third of that amount of time if I go to prison because it wasn't violent offenses. So I'm like, okay, so a third of 5 years, 8 months, I'd already been in for 3 months. It's not that much time, maybe another year or so, year and a half, like not the end of the world, not 25 to life. I'm like, man, God, thank you. Like, this is a miracle in and of itself, right? But you told me you were going to work miracles. Like, and even when it told me it was going to work miracles, it's going to put me back on probation and that I was not going to go to prison. So I'm like, well, what about that, God? You told me, and I'm like, no, like either way, I accept what I got. I earned it. I earned every bit of what I was looking at. Like, I was not good and made really poor decisions. But I'm like, what's up? Like, you had told me this, right? And that night I had a dream. And again, that voice came in and said, ye little faith. I told you I'm going to work miracles and I'm going to give you drug court. But I've done all of this so that beyond a shadow of a doubt, this is me working in your life. And I'm like, okay, all right, God. I mean, the God that made the universe and everything that is obviously bigger than the court system. So it's like, okay, all right, God can do anything. I'm like, okay, who am I to think that you can't do this? Like, all right, let's do it, right? And I'm going into court like in a couple of days. So I go in for my sentencing. And the last, like, I had some like letters that I had turned in from some people that were like, hey, he's a decent dude. He just has to deal with these addictions and stuff and his alcoholism, but he's a good guy, he just makes poor choices, and between that and then I wrote my own letter just being like, man, I earned every bit of this shit, but like my kids are paying the fucking price and God, I don't want him to have to deal with it anymore. So I got those letters in. The judge had already seen that, and I just asked the attorney, I'm like, hey man, like, so I'm going in, like, it's already a done deal. I'm getting 5 years, 8 months. That's the deal. Hands are tied. No way about it. I'm going in for sentencing to receive these 5 years, 8 months. Right. I'm like, okay. But also with God telling me, this shit's going to happen. I'm like, okay. So I was supposed to be able to address the judge like one last time before I accept my sentencing, And so I asked my attorney, I'm like, hey, am I going to be able to do that? And he said, no, it's the strangest thing. The judge has had a change of heart and he's going to give you drug court. I've never seen this in the 25 years I've been doing this here. So just sit down and shut up and you're going to be out, if not today, in 2 days. And I'm like, oh, what? So I go in there and I sit down and I'm talking to the judge. He's like, well, Mr. Obrisky, I'm not even really sure why I'm doing this, but I got your letters and I also had to do a lot of investigation to figure out how this would even be possible. But this is what we're going to do. I'm going to withdraw your violation of probation from like 3.5 years ago when I went on the run, or 2.5 years ago, whatever it was. I'm going to reinstate that violation as of the day that I turned myself in. This created the legal loophole where he could even offer me drug court. Because like he told me prior, his hands are tied. 5 years, 8 months, got to go. Have to do it. Like, time's lapsed. Nothing we can do. Like, you got to go. So crazy. And I'm like weeping in court. I'm like, oh my God, like God's doing it, dude. Like, and dude, anyone familiar with Butte County and the judicial system, not common for it to go that way, although maybe there's just a lot of fuckers in Butte County that aren't walking in truth and love. I certainly wasn't there. So I don't know. Anyway, it's not a very common thing. So, and I'm just like, what? Like, and literally 2 days later, so it's 2 weeks because they had to come and evaluate me. And then 2 days after that, I got out the day after my birthday, July 12th. And boy, what a trip, man. So then even going through drug court, right? So then I'm going through drug court, super intensive, right? And I'm a fucking drug addict, dude. Like, you don't quit old behavior quickly, you know? So I'm like bouncing in between, like walking in truth and love, doing the right thing. I'm like struggling with like being a fiend, man. I like meth and alcohol and weed, you know? Like, especially I don't have alcohol or meth, at least let me have some weed, man, you know? Like, and like was sober all the time in jail. As soon as I got out, like, I was smoking a cigarette, man. That was like the beginning of the end again, like getting caught up in the flesh, you know? And so, like, so anyway, I'm going through drug court, and like, I didn't even think I'm gonna make it through drug court, right? Because it's like, it's super intensive. If you finish it, everything gets forgiven and dismissed. You have no charges. If you don't, you go to prison. You gotta do your time. So, oh my God, how am I gonna make it through this? And even through all that, like, crazy stuff happened where, like, I herniated a disc in my back, and then I also milked it for a while, right? And so, like, through that whole process, the courts were like, wound up dropping me down to formal probation. Well, with formal probation, I could get a 215, and as long as I had a doctor's recommendation, then I could smoke weed. And so that helped me because I'd already started smoking weed again, and I was like super afraid and not wanting to be honest. I'm like, fuck, they're gonna send me to prison. And then, like, you know, one thing after another has opened up for me to make it through not going to prison. And through all that, I also wound up having to go to rehab, like right after, it was like 3 months after being out of jail. And when I was at rehab, of all places, met the love of my life. And now I know you're already thinking, like, this crazy motherfucker. Like, this is so taboo. I don't recommend this. Like, when we both got baggage, and like, this is not ideal circumstances. But man, love at first sight's real. I never thought I could experience that. I always thought this was shit in the movies. But it was, without a doubt, I knew right away. In 2 weeks, I had already written the note saying, and I was going to wait till December 1st, a year later, before I gave it to her. Because I'm like, you know, I at least got to wait some time. Like, you know, because all this time I'm still questioning myself. Like, am I just batshit fucking crazy? Like, have drugs just like fucked my mind up, where I'm like putting all this stuff together and making all this stuff happen, and like I'm just like fucking crazy as a loon, you know? 12 Monkey reference for those movie buffs. Anyway, so meet the love of my life, and like within so much time of being out, like we move in together. Like, I'm living at her house right now with her mother, working on getting out of that situation, or at least being able to provide more. But anyway, God has provided all sorts of opportunities for me to work through this stuff. I am now completely clear of probation. I'm off all that shit. And I've, ironically enough, have been going through school, through CCAP, to become a drug and alcohol counselor, and was getting my hours through all that, you know. But with the stuff with my back, and then relational issues and stuff like that, it's gotten in the way with me being able, like, I've been on hiatus. Like, I have not been performing in that capacity, and for damn good reason. Like, I have no business of doing that. Like, you know, unless I'm being that change agent and doing that in my own life, I have no business teaching other people and trying to do all that stuff. So anyway, so like, and all sorts of crazy idiosyncrasies keep happening throughout all this stuff, where God's like, you know, pulling me. Like, I really felt like God's pulling me towards like sharing my story and towards ministry. Like, you know, it's like, you know, I had you go through all this stuff for a reason. You know, this is not just to be like, oh, Chris, oh, this guy will overcome all this stuff. You know, this is to like glorify God and show people that, like, you know, living in the spirit, you know, of love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Like, this is the way. Like, and Jesus paid that price, right? That price is already paid. So especially in being a baby Christian and all this, right? Like, I'm very baby steps in all this stuff. I've been going through Romans a lot, and because like I was struggling, like, you know, like there's part in the Bible, I think it's also in Romans, like, that which I want to do, I don't do, and that which I don't want to do, I do. It's like, why do I keep doing this, And it's really, it talks about, living under the law, and that when Jesus died, that price was paid. There, like, we are no longer living underneath the law, but have been given the gift to walk in the Spirit, right? Now, also, and I need to go get my Bible to go farther into this. So maybe this is where I'm at right now. This is the experience I had. I'm going to really be diving into moving forward as a baby Christian, walking in faith, and really just trying to show like how radically miracles will happen when you walk in truth and love. Like, everything in life is a spiritual battle. That was the other thing I got through these downloads. Like, everything in life. It's like, when you're driving down the street, some guy cuts you off, are you quick to fuck you, asshole? You know what I mean? Like, already, the dark side's won. You've been pulled over into this, like, this negativity of you putting out this anger and contempt, compared to like, oh man, love you, brother. I hope you have a better day. They must be going through something where it's rough and they're rushing to get to work. Maybe they had something going on with their family, you know what I mean? Or whatever, and putting out positive energy, So in every aspect in life, on every day, we all have that interaction of like, oh, am I going to like fall into my fleshly or my human thinking of like, oh, fuck you, you hurt me, so I'm going to turn my love off or whatever the situation is, rather than like walking in truth and love, and then looking at that within your own self, if sometimes when you look at that, so, like for me, especially, there were truths I did not like the answer to, you know what I mean? And like, I would lose relationships that I had because of these truths. And it's like, okay, in order for me to walk in truth and love, like there's truths I have to change in order for me to fully do that. I can't walk in truth and love and be drinking and be the daddy I want to be, especially with the damage it's done to my kids' life. I can't do that and be smoking weed all the time because like my son who's 14 is like, Dad, I can't go camping with you and bring my buddies because like most of my friends are legit and like their parents are like legit and they won't let them go. I'm like, well, fuck. Well, then me smoking weed, like that's not like, or at least to the extent that I don't think anything in and of itself is inherently bad, but for me and for where I was at, like these are things that I can't do anymore. Like substances are not going to help me get to my fullest potential. And like everything in my life is pulling me to it right now. So I'm just like at the baby steps of like walking in faith and doing the action of like what I'm feeling called by in my spirit, and I don't know what that looks like. I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm not like sure, other than it's like, you got to share the story, get it out there somehow. And I don't really know what it looks like. So I'm just like trying to do these things, hopefully, it'll encourage other people, man. Like, I don't want to fucking die today. I no longer identify with I'm not a constant fuck up. I have fucked up. I've gone through a lot of horrible things, like, and even like, my language, like I'm a baby Christian, like, I'm not doing it perfect. I'm a human, just trying to learn how to love better and love all the time, walk in the Spirit all the time. I'm no longer bound by the law. Even though the law is good, the law showed me I was living in sin, but I'm not bound by that anymore. Like the whole point, like Jesus died for all that to happen so that I can walk in the Spirit and have this connection with God. And so that's what I'm doing. So, and I don't know how all that plays out. I don't know what's up with all that. Like, I also talk about CE5 stuff. Like, I've done some more stuff with that. Like, I do think there's celestial beings. I do think there's watchers. I think we've been in contact, and they've been in contact with us for some time. I don't know if we're going to have more actual physical contact. They're going to help bring us into this enlightened stage. Or maybe it's just like the experience that I had. They're going to have contacts like that with more other people. I don't know. But I also so I have a picture I'm going to bring up at some point in time that I want to like figure out, because there's like some trippy stuff, man. it also there's images of similar things and stuff from Stephen Greer. There's this other one. Oh, I forget her name. Dorothy something. Dorothy said she's from Canada, and she like does all these videos, and she captures all these light stuff, and she's having contact too with like things. She's also, yeah. Anyway, so I don't know what all of this is coming to, other than giving glory to God, ushering in the kingdom of heaven, and learning how to walk in truth and love. And I think that's really getting ready to happen on a mass scale. Again, I don't know what that looks like. All I know, so the other big thing that came into that is as above, so below, as within, so without, right? And it's telling me, it's like, okay, like, because we already all know, like, no one can change the world. All you can do is change yourself. But I do think that we are so interconnected that changing myself is changing the world. And if as above, so below, as within, so without, like if there's universes out there, there's universes in here, Anyway, so with that concept in mind, if I'm smoking weed or drinking or dealing with sexual immorality or having contentions and dissensions, like a dissension, that's in the Bible. That's just like having like arguments, right? Like arguing with each other and like quarreling, like that's not walking in truth and love. And I really feel like for whatever reason, for all this experience, it's like, the time is now to walk in truth and love and be ushering in this, like people have been talking about it on all sorts of different platforms. Like the enlightened period is coming. Like that's inevitable. It's happening. So all I know is I want to be a part of it. This is the experience that I had. I know it's trippy as fuck. You ain't got to believe it. I struggle with believing it, but it's like, it's undeniable. And people in my life, they're like, dude, so undeniable. So, and I can't like it. Yeah, it's undeniable. So this is the beginning of all that. I think maybe from here on out, maybe I'm just going to start going through Romans and just be like, hey, this is what it's like to be a baby Christian. This is what I'm going through like, asking God. And so these are things I've been doing already of like asking God, like, because like Jesus paid the price, dude. Like there's so much of it. I'm like, I keep trying to like fall into the law of like, oh, I got to live this way. I got to do these things. But it's like, dude, the price is paid, man. Like I've been forgiven, and that's another amazing thing. Like when I had that experience with that light being showing up in my room, like I've never had the light being it's never showed back up. Like I've never had that experience again, but I've had like, I've heard its voice in my mind a few different times, like, and stuff like that. Like, but I've never had like a visual thing again. But anyway, I lost my train of thought. So maybe it's time to be done. And it kind of feels like time to be done. So that's what happened. Hopefully this encourages you that you are worth it. You are worthy of love. There is something so amazing about you that you are here for this time right now. God's got a purpose for your life. If you'll surrender and walk in truth and love, I bet you miracles will happen. Now, I don't know. I encourage you to try this for yourself. And when I see you again, we'll be diving into Romans or whatever the next thing is that God has on my heart. So thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you. Much love. And until the next time.